Привет. So, thanks to my friends who reflected on my videos, and today I will be less monotonous because I'm not going to talk and type simultaneously. Instead, I prepared a little presentation for you, and I will be just running the programs one by one and explaining what's going on. And we will be covering loops. Before we get into loops, though, I want to show you a couple of ways to format strings in Python because we will be using that. So the first and my favorite one is the newest method that came out with Python 3, which is f-strings. So all you gotta do is put the little f and then open the quote marks and write your string, and then as a placeholder you just put whatever the variable is in the curly brackets. Alternative to that, it used to be just type in dot and then format function, and then in the brackets you would specify what the placeholder is in terms of variables that you have. And then before even that, it used to be placeholders, so you would have to specify the type of a variable. In our case it's string, and then put the percent sign after the string and specify the variable. So that's how all three of those work. And we'll also use the keyword in that you see in loops, and you can also use it just on the list, for example. Here, let's see if name Peter is in this list of names, and this should return us the boolean. And indeed it does. It says true, Peter is in the list. If we were to say give him a different name, it will return false. And now onto the loops, the favorite programmer's soup probably, and the easiest one of them is the for loop, and that's the one that you most likely use the most. It's super simple. So in Python the syntax is you just write for some variable in and some iterable, and then you specify the actions of that loop and the body of the loop. You just have to do the semicolon and have the indentation after it on the next line. Indentation is a tab or 4 spaces. And so here we just want, for each name in our list names, we just want to print hello and that name. And once the list name is exhausted, the loop will end on its own. And we only have 3 names. It just printed hello, Peter, Sergey, and Ivan, and then just finish the program. And a little bit trickier loop, the while loop. So the way it works is it does some actions that you specify in the body of the loop while some condition is satisfied. So in this case, just to end the loop with having this x variable that essentially acts like a counter, and it starts with 0 because I'm using here the indices of a list that, if you remember in Python, start with 0. And then I just compare that x to the length of the list names, and while this x is smaller than the length of the names, I want to just print hello and that name. And then once x becomes greater than the length of list names, it finishes the loop. And if we run it, it gives us exact same results as the previous for loop, and then it finishes the loop. So notice how in this while loop I had x being increased by 1, so that this condition eventually becomes not true, and then it quits the loop. If I did not have that and x would always remain 0, it would always just print hello Peter, hello Peter, hello Peter. And then I can demonstrate you this with this example. So I've imported slip so it doesn't overwhelm us with too many highs that it's going to attempt to print to eternity. And then we're just going to print high, wait for 1 second, and then print high again. And why it's going to do that is because I wrote while true, or in other words, just literally always true or do always. And see how it just prints highs, never stops until I do that for him. And what if you want to have a loop in the loop, kind of like a Inception movie? So we do nested loops then. Say we have a list of first names and a list of last names, and I want to iterate through each of them and find all the combinations of first and last name. And actually I've added a counter here just to count all the possible combinations. So for each name I'll try each last name, and then I'll print out both. Let's see how that works. So we have 9 different combinations, and here is all of them. I've also included list comprehensions because that is essentially a loop as well. So if you work with a list and you want to work on that list and produce a list as an outcome, you can have a loop encapsulated in these square brackets, except for syntax is a little bit different. So see how here we have for, and then we declare our variables, and then we do the actions, whatever we want to modify our variables or do with them. Here you have that body of a loop in front, and then you proceed with writing for and then the variables. So say I want this list of numbers 1 through 5 to be turned into list of numbers 1 through 5 squared. And here's the output. I also want to quickly show if-else statements in Python, because I don't think they're that hard and I don't want to do a separate video on them. So we'll start off with just simple if statement. So we have our loop again with the names list, and then in the body of the loop I started by writing if, and then there is a capital P in the name, then I want to print it out. Else, I don't print it out. I could have specified that, but if I ignored it, then else would basically do nothing. It would pass. So let's see if that prints as Peter, and it does. And for example, if I want to have multiple ifs, there is an elif keyword in Python that you can use. So same list of names, and I want to print hello and the name if it has a capital P in it, or I want to just print hi if it has V in it. And then if none of that is true, then else it would just print the name without hi or hello. And if we look in our list, that should be Peter with hello, Sergey with nothing because it doesn't have a capital P or V, and then Ivan with hi. And so it prints that out. And so if you watched all the videos so far, that should be a very easy task. So you should only find numbers in the list that have a whole number square root. So here's the list of squares, and try to write a loop and put all the conditions there that will return you the number that is not the whole number if you square root it. And again, thank you for watching, and till next video.